everything off. Just live with the results no matter what. Good luck. I do it sometimes. It's liberating if you can succeed. Alright, so you see our new launch pad. We've got this, all the thrust is going to go in here into these directional plume stations so we can shoot our fire out rather than back into our behind. And usually there's a pit or another thing under here that the fire goes in, and there's a lot of times a cooling mechanism in there, like some kind of mass chemical ejection or even water. They've tried so many different things. It's they're just trying to keep everything from melting, basically. They create enough force and enough heat, things don't recover quickly, and sometimes they just turn to 2300 degree steel and just bend. Don't hold me to that number of steel. We'll have to look that up. But there's something about 2300 degrees. Maybe we'll find out later. So anyway, I'm going to face this direction because this is what I like to do. And off we go. Now, what we're looking for is somewhere between 500 and 1,000 feet per second when we eject the solid rocket boosters. You can see our rocket's azimuth is actually pulling us against the grain. It's okay, we're just going to tolerate that and hope that we can correct that at the next stage. I can try to correct it now by pulling on some levers and trying to get that back on that center circle without much luck, and then that's going to run out. Alright, now I want to slow that down to where it almost stops, right? See that? 15. 15. 14. It's 15. 9. Okay, now it's going to speed up quite a bit, and I am going to steer very gingerly. Oh my goodness. No more ginger. I hit 72 so fast in my demonstration. I need to get right up there. And I'm climbing like you can't believe, so I'm going to actually point it back down and try to do something backwards here. I'm actually trying to reduce my altitude to 70 instead of increase it to 70. I'm doing an opposite approach. Don't play like this. There's a better way. Go check my other video. Alright guys. Okay, so I'm at 72. I can live with that. You know, we'll be between 70 and 75, I think, and I'm just a little below the 0 line. So I'm coming right down the 90 pipe. I'm going to put it on 89. Now, since things got out of hand, I'm going to really shoot the gas fast. What I'm trying to do is achieve 2290 here before this hits 0. But I'll show you how to adjust for that if we don't make it. So just so you can see what we're doing, let's go to the map and look at that. You can see me closing out on what we call the apoapsis or the apogee, and we're 17 seconds away from it. So, and it looks like it's starting to pull away. So when it pulls away and we're at 0 like that, we can back our speed off and make that number constant, or slowly reclining back as we try to achieve 2250. Which means when we hit 0 here, we want to hit 22. Well, actually 2290. 2250 is my checkpoint. So we're at 20 now. We're at 8. We're increasing in speed. We can go back. I'll show you. We've got the number right here. So I'm going to go to 2290 and shut it down. I'll show you what happens. Okay, 2250. We're at 36,000 meters. We're at 74 here. We want to be at 70. 70 or above. So I just put that up on 70. right there. So now we've achieved orbit. I'll show you. See, we've achieved our goal of orbiting Kerbal. That means we have money, we have an accomplishment, and now we basically have a nice orbit. It's not concentric. Concentric would be where it's the same distance, approximately 74,000, 74,000, within a few hundred meters. So this is a non-concentric orbit, or an elliptical orbit. In real life, it doesn't do it in Kerbal, but we do follow most physics, but for some reason it doesn't do this. It would try to, over time, long period of time, would try to even itself out. And I remember there used to be mods with other versions, orbital decay. So you would actually decay a little as you're evening it out. So, but it does it to itself because it is what it is. It's the mass it is in relationship to this mass. I mean, a whole bunch of time. But after time, things do change in near orbit. Kerbal's a little more constant because it's a learning program. We don't need a decaying variable. The variable of decay for you to calculate. You always figure, just basically done. We got to make these little tiny adjustments. We call it drift in the navigation world. Just for drift. So we're floating around. We get to have some experiences, like we're going to watch the sunset. We're going to watch it come up. Now we can do EVA reports while we're here. Watch this. Remember I did an EVA report in space? So that's an EVA report over Kerbal shores. We'll keep that in the board. I think we did it over Kerbal water, so we will not be able to do an EVA report over water. We already have received credit for it in the past. And see how the EVA over water is dead. Now, what we're going to do, we need to board back up. Don't forget a board. You'd stay up there 6 minutes and you're in trouble. So, what we need to do now is get an EVA report for the grasslands, for the mountains. Just got one for the shore. We're going to need one for a place called the highlands, the mountains, and the desert. So we have 5 more to collect. That's 50 points, I think. Let's check. Review stored data. 8 times 5, 40 points. Excuse me, I said 50. 40 points. Okay? Keep. Now, at this point, we've achieved orbit, and we're waiting to basically circle around the planet. I see we have a little bit of gas left here, and we have this much gas here. So I proposed that if we had one of these tanks here, that we would run out of gas and would not have created space junk. This would have fallen back to orbit, and we would still have the same amount of gas yet attached to my high efficiency in a vacuum, which we are. We're in, look, 1, 2, 3, 4 stages above this. This is the 4 stages of atmosphere. This is thin air, thick air, thick air, thinner air, very thin air, and no air at all. Like a veil between the atmospheres and the space. It's smaller too, like it's just a little fraction. And then after that, our atmosphere doesn't even read it. So we have no atmosphere. We are called what is in a vacuum. Vacuum. In a vacuum. Alright, Space Center. Now, if anyone's watching this and is an adult, please understand that I'm hoping children are watching this and customizing, becoming accustomed and acclimatizing, or acclimating to particular vocabulary terms in space. I believe those are all words I said, but yes, we need to acclimate to the environment, which means using the verbiage or the words. We have 2 words for everything in English. That's because basically, sometimes 3. Basically, we had the Romans and the Greeks, and we kept both of their roots. So we have 2 roots, Roman Alpha, Greek Cyrillic. Russians use this Greek stronger. We use Roman Alpha stronger. But we do have crossovers, especially with Russian and English, because of this. English, for sure, probably Russian too, has 2 words for everything. And you have to know in context when to use what. If you're an English speaker, we don't even know we're doing it. We just learn the correct one. And we can substitute the other one. People know what you're saying. They just look at you like, huh? Where are you from? So anyway, the third element is we also don't change foreign words. So when we learn a foreign word, we keep it. And then there's also languages like Thai, for example, that didn't have words in their original language, so they don't change foreign words either. So with us, Thai, and Russian, we all say words like computer, hard drive, RAM, ROM, CPU, power supply. You know, of course there's a word for power. There's a word for supply in Thai, but they have both those words in the ancient language, but they don't put their ancient words together to create power supply. They just say power supply. And then you know that in context to computer assembly is what they're taught, is what that word means. It's a very specific thing to us. To us, power supply is a wide open generalized term. The Thai people, it's super specific, and if they mean override generalized, then they'll use their language to say power supply, not computer. Anyway, just an interesting thing. But guess what? We're orbiting and we're back at Space Center. So let's go in here, and we've got a new mission, and that's Explore Kerbal. And what this says basically is we got to orbit, now bring them home. And that's the whole point of at least the Apollo program and anything but the dog and animal experiments that we used. Bring them home alive. And by the way, we all feel very terrible for sending pigs, dogs, and monkeys into space. And other lower forms like rats and mice. It's tragic, but somehow we're putting human life above animal life when we could have achieved this thing with sensors and not used like the canary in a coal mine concept of the ancient man. Anyway, it was part of the cruelty of the program as we killed animals to ensure human safety, a lot like animal testing now. But we're doing less and less of that more, and we hope we evolve as a species. Now, because I accepted the new mission, you can see I have money, but I have nothing to do, nowhere to go, only back to the flight. So here we come. We're now in a place called the observation room. We can see our space debris. We only have one object in space right now. Amazing. It's Sputnik. You ever like it when Americans say Sputnik? Sputnik. It's because they see the short U, but it's a foreign word, so we have to ignore that there's no vowel beyond the consonant or a double vowel to change the sound. It's still not sput. It's a foreign word. It's spoot. It's O-O. What we should have done is transliterated it S-P-O-O-N-I-K. So it's Sputnik, not Sputnik. Say Sputnik. Don't ever say sput. Say spoot, like food. Sputnik. Otherwise, you are an ignorant American who says words like Jiminy. Jiminy. Jiminy is a Disney character. Jiminy Crickets. Gemini is everything else. So anyone who says Jiminy and not Gemini is basically an idiot. And there is one exception, and that's Amy. Amy, if you're listening to me, I apologize. I'm talking to the masses. I'm not talking to you. Amy Tootle is, I think, her name. I may have mispronounced that name. But she is a space historian, and if you should watch her if you don't. You watch Amy. You watch Amy. There's something wrong with you. She explains that because they basically mispronounced it, she mispronounces it to maintain historical integrity, but she also cites that it's incorrect. So hallelujah, Amy. Thank you for teaching us all. Me, myself, I'm going to say Gemini, because I'm not protecting any integrity of Walter Cronkite's ignorance. That's my opinion. Foolish, media, uninformed, and ignorant. He also says Sputnik, I'm sure. Now, is it Kennedy or was it Lyndon B. Johnson? One of them said Soviet. The Soviet Union. And we say Soviet. It's correct for us to say Soviet. But when you speak Russian, it's Soviet. Soviet. Hear that? Soviet. So, but our pronunciation is Soviet. It's different than speaking. So you can continue to say Soviet. Don't say Spot. Say Spoon. And always, always say Gemini. Unless you're Amy Tuttle. Maybe you got married. Amy, did you get married? Anyway, Amy is so cool. She's a space historian. She's beautiful. I don't know if she found it accidentally, but she went to school to study history and she picked space. I think she wrote her master's thesis on space. She writes books. She's very well informed. She actually goes and talks to astronauts. She's taken it on to educate us all. She's got soapboxes, so she actually gets on and gripes and moans about the misdirection of our administrations. And then she talks about the glory of it all. So, I mean, Amy, I love you. I know you're a journalist and a historian. I know you're maybe you're a historical journalist. And that's because we need you. We need to keep space current and relevant. It's not about the archives. It's not Roman centurions. My goodness, these are guys in my lifetime. Events in my lifetime, almost in yours if you're younger. And very relevant to our near future, I hope. As well as deep sea, feeding the planet. I do believe we should take care of problems at home before we go flying off in oblivion. But, oblivion's not that expensive if we're not greedy. And feeding people is nothing if we just all do the right thing. And hopefully you travel around in space and you look down on our big blue marble and see our little thin veil of atmosphere and think, oh my God, it puts things into perspective. How precious is this? And it must be the animals and the people too, because we're animals too. Everything's precious. If we had animal farts destroying the atmosphere, we would start killing animals. So, but for some reason, when humans fart, it's okay. And I'm not just saying that to be vulgar. There's actually been flatulent studies of animal life and atmospheric degradation in comparison to factory emissions. They're trying to determine if which forms of agriculture were causing our ozone to deplete. I think it's repairing itself now, by the way, so I may have misunderstood this. So we were studying factory emissions next to animal flatulence, and we were saying that farting farm animals were creating as much pollution as factories. Now, political, yes. Marketing, yes. Sickening, yes. But they were doing, and they are making the point. And now that it's repairing itself, maybe they were just a lucky guess. And maybe it's not repairing itself. Please research all these things that I say. Don't hold anything I say. I'm babbling from memory of a space program. I'm 54 years old. I talk about stuff that's I learned decades ago. And sometimes it's maybe a little outdated, or maybe I need a new perspective, or maybe someone has a different, better one. Hallelujah for the open mind, the scientific approach. Also, hallelujah, there's a little faith that there's something that brought us here before to respect. There's people beyond us that will be smarter than us. We need to preserve and respect them. And they were born. So let's respect everyone, past, the present, and the future. See if we can't make something great of this universe before our planet blows into oblivion from some cosmic ray that runs over us. Should have happened a long time ago. I always say, God save us all. What's God got to do with it? It's a cosmic array. Anyway, the division of faith and science. If anyone believes there's a division in faith and science, I direct you to the 70s movie called Planet of the Apes and Dr. Zaius. He was the minister of science and also the defender of the faith. And he did them both litigiously. Yeah, he did, litigiously, in court. In court. And he was also afraid. But that was because he could see the future and someone bent space and it's a big mess and there's a butterfly paradox. But let's not go there. Let's just say that in a pseudoscientific ape world, it's possible to have the defender of science and the defender of the faith being one thing, one entity. Fascinating movie, if you can look at it analytically. You gotta realize people back then had this kind of weird way of thinking. It was also one of the first things where we traveled through space. It wasn't like the time machine. This is about shooting in a rocket real fast, like Einstein theory. Pulling away at a proper speed and having Earth time evolve faster than the actual time on the ship traveling away from the Earth at the speed of light. And somehow they came back at the speed of light thousands of years later, but the astronauts were in stasis and didn't know where they were, so actually no spoilers, but they landed on an unknown ape planet and found out very quickly it was similar to their own, and then watched to the end. Anyway, I don't know if young people like it. Charlton Heston was young, had blonde hair. Probably in his prime, I'm thinking 30s something. Biggest actor of the day, just Moses. There's Moses in space. Gotta love it. Anyway, so back to the less rambling. We're gonna highlight that and click fly. We were in the observation of that. But all this stuff is relevant. Everything I talk about is relevant to the what we call the time-space continuum, Einstein's theory, celestial dynamics, and orbital mechanics. That's what we're doing here. We're doing orbital mechanics within the dynamics of the celestial system. Recall we say the universe. So this takes time to get all the science. So we have a way to speed it up. And we're going to actually press our greater than button. See, I just increased speed and time. Greater than button. And then we just saw the sunrise. I'm sorry I didn't show you the spectacular of it. But that's the nice thing about this game. You can be intense. It's got its moments of intensity, but then it's got its moments of indie reminiscence where you're just, kind of traveling in space. It's slow and it's lonely in space. We just happen to be doing the exciting stuff now. So this is Kerbal Shores as I cross over this little peninsula. Peninsula is a arm of land that's surrounded on three sides by water. If we were surrounded by four, we would be an island. Anyway, that's called a peninsula. Okay, and if I back up, would be like a bay. This is actually a place like Tonga where a meteor hit. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. But as we're coming over the mountains, I'm going to take a mountain EVA report. See, mountains. And I keep and I board. Okay, and had I not already had shore, I usually do shore and mountains, right? The same one. Then I'm going to go greater than again and increase my speed. You never want to bring a Kerbal out in high speed. They might just flip off your vessel and have a problem. Alright, so now I should be over either grasslands or highlands. So what we do is we make note and we do an EVA report and we say mountain. So I'm not going to collect that one. I'm going to board it. It wouldn't let me collect two anyway. I didn't get it to it quick enough. So I'm coming over this. We're leaving the mountains and we're here now. So I'm going to consider that possibly the highlands. But we just look. See? Deserts. Yes. So we remember we just got deserts. Now we're looking for highlands and grasslands and then we'll come home. So we speed it up. That's desert, desert, desert. Alright. Desert. Alright. So this is actually Kerbal Space Command right here. So we're flying over our own continent. This is where our point of origin is. And I'm going to assume that this is someplace called the Highlands right now, and we'll look. Grasslands. I'll take it. So now all we need is the Highlands, and I hope I'm not forgetting it. I know if we go north and south, we're going east and west now, but if we go north and south, we'll have the ice caps, both north and south, ice shelves, north and south, and something called the Badlands, which we don't have on this equatorial loop or orbit. No such thing for us here. And I am going to come over Kerbal Mountains, and as we're approaching us, I believe we have highlands on Earth 8. So this will be once again grasslands. I'm not collecting it. I have one inside. It shows me I can collect, but if I try to collect and board, it's not going to let me. So let's go ahead and hit greater then, cycle through all this stuff. If we don't get it, no big deal. Because I just need the highlands. Now I have everything else, so I'm going to basically stop it right here. This looks like a highland. If it's not shoreland or water. Generally speaking, your Kerbal can stay out about 6 minutes. Shores, no. I'll just hang out here for a second. Fly. Oh, if you want to turn the light on, hit the U, and then it shines on. It turns on your neon suits too, so you can actually see them. So highlights. There we go. So here we keep it, and then we board. And then I'm going to show you something. I'm going to come to here, and I'm going to come around to this point right here. So once again, I'm going to go greater than on speed, and then less than to slow it down. If you can't accelerate time, then you're going to be sitting here a long time, or you're going to be setting an alarm, or you're going to be, coming back, or just sitting there staring at it. But look, I can increase the time, come around to this